I think you asked the really hard questions. Questions like, what's the risk that we're not seeing?
Well, the hard part is we don't know what the world's going to look like. AI is going to make that 1,000 times worse.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to AI with Bry, the show where we dive deep into how to learn, leverage, and lead with AI. I'm your host, Bryan Dennstedt. I'm a technologist, strategist, and someone always looking for the edge AI can bring to work and our lives. This week, we've got an amazing special guest, Terry Ziemniak. Terry's career sits at the intersection of risk, strategy, and technology. He's a former chief risk officer and a seasoned analytics and cybersecurity executive. He's advised Fortune 500 companies on managing risk and digital transformations and brings a unique lens on trust, governance, and ethical dimensions of AI. His current focus, he's helping organizations build AI strategies that are not only powerful, but responsible. Terry, you've been somebody I've been watching for a while because you don't just chase the shiny objects. I think you ask the really hard questions. Questions like, should we trust that model? And what's the risk that we're not seeing? I know these are things we've geeked out over coffee and breakfast a few times. So today, I really want to dig into those questions and more. Welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Well, let's start where we always do with learning, right? So, Terry, what's something you've learned recently about AI that's shifted your perspective or challenged some of your assumptions?
Yeah, so my perspective, my background is cybersecurity and risk, as you mentioned, but I've been dabbling with AI since, boy, undergraduate back in the 1990s, early 1990s. We had actually our senior project we're working on, and we effectively built Google Maps for our college campus. So how do you navigate from the library to the football stadium, and the football stadium to the engineering building? So we were dabbling with AI a long time ago. It's kind of neat to see the evolution of what's been going on here. So what I've seen though is with a little bit the AI background, technical background in cyber is I'm seeing more and more parallels between the cyber and the AI conversation from a risk perspective. So companies have learned to deal with cyber risk, and some companies are still struggling, but there's a maturity path that we're working through. So how does cyber impact my business? What are the risks? What do I have to worry about from contracts and partners and business continuity, all those sorts of things? We're seeing the evolution and the growth of those basically same conversations from an AI perspective. If I'm buying AI technology, what's the risk to my company? If I have it in-house, what are the risks? What are the compliance concerns, the business continuity, data governance, as you mentioned? So there's a lot of striking parallels between the two. And I'm finding that companies that have a mature, solid cybersecurity program, they're actually leveraging that to quickly jump and merge to the data governance in the AI program as well. So, what I'm learning is a lot of parallels. It's a lot of neat technology, but the structure and the governance and to make these neat, shiny objects work well within your organization, a lot of these thought processes have already been done. So they're out there and are leveraging it with minimal changes to accommodate AI because it is different than cyber. But again, it's not rocket science. We're not, from a risk perspective, we're not starting from ground zero. And I think that's one of the lessons to be learned.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think that AI is forcing us to do more planning. Like, let's slow down before we start. Like, I know even me as a developer, I just want to jump in and play with it and connect the wires and get it to do the thing I want to do. But the right way to look about it is to sit down and be thoughtful and let's really think through everything with these strategic things like, gosh, what is the Sagrada Familia is what's popping into my head. These people were building this amazing church in Barcelona, and they knew it would take a long, long time. I think they've been building this church for what, three generations now, and I think it's finally coming to completion. But like, I guess that's my concern too, is just like, how do we pull in somebody like you to help us plan and figure out our data governance thing so we don't wander down that slippery slope of AI and really unlock AI's potential, but not give away our family secrets to a degree. And that's the hype, I guess, right? There's so much hype, there's so much fear around AI, how are you helping people cut through that noise and do this planning piece so well?
Well, the hard part is we don't know what the world's going to look like, goodness, 12 months down the road. So compliance and regulation, contractual obligations, these are all evolving and they will change. So whatever you see today is going to change. So you've got to be prepared for that change. The other thing I'm seeing is that the use case is so great. We built this shiny widget, or we purchased this widget to solve problem A. Hey, we just realized it solved problems B, C, and D as well. Great for the business, but you got to take a second, put the brakes on, and say what are the risks of doing this. So data is moving in ways you're not expecting it. It's growing, it's evolving. You've got learning models that you're building on the fly. So there's a whole level of uncertainty that, and I would even say uncertainty. We know we don't know, and these changes are coming down the road. So you got to take a moment, as you said, and plan and have the governance in place that when the rules change tomorrow, again, contracts, regulations, whatever it may be, when these changes come tomorrow, are you prepared to handle it, or do you have to blow up your models and retrain? Do you have to revisit everything? It's, again, tie it back to cybersecurity. Are you building something that you're going to have to blow up to then make secure? So
Yeah.
build the security, build the governance, build the AI planning in early, prepare for the changes that are undoubtedly coming down the road, so you don't have to blow up these things that you're building now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so interesting to, which AI camp do you want to be in? Do you want to be in the Open AI or the Gemini or the Claude, or you want to run with the DeepSeek or some of the Olama models? Like you're picking one of these camps and jumping into it without really knowing their roadmaps, their trajectories, your roadmap, your cost projections. And it's easy but hard to switch once you've built an architecture and information around it. I mean, that's such an invaluable insight you're giving there. And I don't think it's
And I
something
think
we talk about enough.
Yeah, and I think, Brian, there's another parallel, another problem that IT has been struggling with for 15, 20 years is that cloud journey. Again, you make a decision today, what's it going to look like? Can you back out of the cloud contract? Can you move your technologies? These same problems are going to pop up in the AI space. So, all the AI evangelists and architects, think back to what our industry's learned with the cloud migration and the cybersecurity, all the things we've learned before. Revisit that, because there's a lot of meaningful gems that we can leverage in our AI journey.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I always try to look back, like if we look back 100 years, how did they go through some of the change that we saw, the introduction of electricity and the car and the washing machines? How do we learn through what they went through to try and not make some of the mistakes that we're seeing? But at the same time, it feels like it's moving so fast and so rapidly, it's hard to figure out which way to go. I I want to move into like the leveraging section now a little bit. I mean, you have been across a multitude of industries, and I'm just curious, like, how are you helping take some of the stuff we were just talking about that we need to learn about and help these organizations actually put AI to work in a smart and strategic way?
Well, it's different for different clients. So it's really starts with people understanding the problem they're trying to solve. And that's kind of a business analyst sorts of conversation. And those are conversations I have with a couple of clients. But it really goes back, Brian, I think, to you need a structure, you need a plan. And I've got a client, for example, that they just came to me about 4 months ago and said, "Hey, we want to start using AI." Okay, great. Can you
What's
be a
that
little
mean?
more specific?
Yeah.
Again, parallel back. Hey, Terry, we want to be secure. I'm like, well, okay, well, let's have some conversations. But working through we bring in some experts, and we had some great conversations, educational sessions. We started with basic. We had a multi-stage approach to what we're going to do. So it's educate the organization, the executives, the users, get them familiar with AI, start with office, back office sorts of solutions. So that's what we build out for them. Phase two is coming behind that, which then starts leveraging some of the generative AI, and then eventually we're going to go to the predictive analytics and all the cool visual sorts of technology. Point being is you got to struggle with the basics, and if you jump way to the end of the really complicated stuff, It assumes you've got the sound culture, you've got the sound data governance, you've got your security in place and your contracts, all the other things in place. So generally, it's going to be a metered, thoughtful approach through the AI journey, starting with what are you trying to accomplish, and then a lot of foundational stuff, because your foundation is flawed. You're going to be building it on your house on sand. It's not going to work.
Yeah, and I guess that just goes back to that data governance thing that you were talking about. Like, are there some common gaps in the data governance or the model risk management that leaders should be focused on and paying attention to?
Well, again, tying back to my experience as a CISO for several companies, all companies, pretty much every single company struggles with the inventory of the data governance. What's the true source of information? Where does it come from? Where does it go? Who's responsible for it? What are the control expectations? What are the compliance requirements? That foundational stuff, because even something as simple as payroll or your sales report numbers, you may have multiple versions of that throughout your company. So,
Yeah.
so you got to start and or you got to stop and take a moment and think through what are the true sources of information that you're dealing with. A lot of companies struggle with it, and it's a journey because I've been helping companies with that for 20 some years.
Yeah.
Interesting, in some of the big companies I worked in as CISO, as cybersecurity, they put the data governance team underneath me. So I own data governance as the cybersecurity executive, and we found a lot of parallels. So the data governance guys, they came and said, "Hey, Tier, the problem we have is people don't listen to us. We don't have the authority. We don't know what's going on." I'm like, well, you sound like a cybersecurity guy. Welcome to the team. A lot of the same problems, but yeah, it's that foundational core again. What's the data? What are the expectations? Who are the owners? So it's a lot of, frankly, inventorying. It's not complicated, but it is complicated. We all know where we need to go. It's just hard to get there and hard to maintain it. Maintenance is another big problem, especially in data governance.
And it's interesting to me because I feel like we've been in this era where hard drives were cheap enough and data storage was cheap enough that we could just save everything. Let's save all our financials, let's save all of our customers, let's save all of our documents and marketing and everything we want that we create. Let's just save it all. I think we're fastly moving into this world where we're creating so much content, so much
Mhm.
information, and we aren't realizing that the AI chat history that you have on that left-hand side expires after so long. The images that we generate and the videos we generate are only valid for 24 hours unless you download them to some permanent storage place. But we're moving into this transient data thing where I can recreate something on the fly. And what data governance thing is going to say that it must be saved for HIPAA compliance or other things versus what should be destroyed or can thrown away really quickly. It's just such an interesting. Do you think that AI, do you think people are aware of that component of this transient nature of some of this AI stuff, and or do you think that AI is going to help solve some of our data governance problems because you're going to be able to talk to AI to help figure that out?
No, it won't. I think what AI is showing us is it's a good reminder that there's stuff we care about and there's stuff we don't care about. Risk management. So if you decide of the petabytes of data you have floating around and multiple copies of spreadsheets and databases, maybe you don't care about 98% of it. And if Brian needs 15 copies of a report on his laptop and it's properly secured and the controls are in place, let Brian keep his 15. But those are Brian's and those are not the true source of information. So,
Yeah.
so again, back to the cybersecurity model, what do you care about and what don't you care about, and draw the line between the two. And maybe you only have half a dozen true sources of information that deals with your most critical business operations and processes. That's the stuff you're really going to tightly control because it feeds your AI and a lot of decisions are made off that. And again, if Brian has an old copy, shame on Brian. It's kind of his responsibility. So drawing the line, what we care about, what we don't, basic risk management, those concepts apply to data governance as well.
It's so I was just watching, the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen is the man of the hour in my opinion, right? Because all roads lead to NVIDIA for chips and AI stuff. And I was watching him unveil some of his new chips over the past couple days, and he was talking about this spine that connects all these AI motherboards together in some fashion. And that spine can transfer information between all of the AI chips in this one stack or something like that. It can transfer. I don't know, don't quote me on this, internet people listening to this, but something like 200 terabits or so. I don't know. It was some very, very large number. And he says at any given moment, the internet as its entirety is only transmitting 90 or something like that. I don't know. I don't quote me on the numbers, but it was something like this AI stack and cluster that he's rolling out will be able to do 3 times what the entire internet does every second. And it's just like we don't realize how much data AI is going to be generating on a regular basis as we head into this new paradigm.
And I think another thing we talked about the uncertainty 12 months down the road, as
Hmm.
the price of this keeps dropping, it's going to be more and more kind of consumerization of AI. So
Yeah.
the controls that we're building and hopefully thoughtful implementations we're doing today, a year from now, Susie in HR, maybe she has quick access to an AI function, AI as a service, and she just does her own thing off to the side. So, shadow IT, shadow AI may be popping up pretty soon as this stuff gets cheaper and cheaper.
And this is where those governance controls are so, so important as an implementation, leveraging the boundaries and controls that you can put in place. Because it's way too easy for any employee, whether it's Microsoft or Google Camp, to go click into a new AI tool, click sign in with Google, and boom, give it access to my entire Google Drive of data. And now that's been uploaded into that AI universe. Like we have got to put strong controls in place. So I think people like you have just doubled your salary personally.
Awesome. Yeah. So what I found is working with a client late last year is this concept of latent security issues. If you have lingering security issues, if your data loss prevention, your ability to detect data in and out, if that doesn't work well, if your backup strategies, if your change management, if your workstation controls are not sound, A, you've got a cyber issue, but B, AI is going to make that 1,000 times worse because the capabilities and the uncertainty and the data flows are getting exponentially more complicated. If your foundational cyber controls are not in place, those latent security issues, they're going to be exploited by AI. I've had large company that rolled out Copilot, found out that people's access controls are way more than they thought because Copilot started crawling SharePoint. They're like, put the brakes and they rolled
Yeah,
Copilot back in.
yeah.
Again, access control another big project I did is I made a giant control list, AI control list for their AI governance program. I found that about 85, 90% of the identified controls, control being a protection, a general protection, these protections almost mirrored exactly what cybersecurity already had in place, or the cybersecurity expectation, the basic AI security controls covered a majority of what you needed for AI. There was not a whole lot. Now AI's got architectural concepts like trustworthiness and bias, and all those things have to be thought through. You have to control maybe your databases and your learning management systems, and the models have to be protected. There's some variances, but the vast majority of the concerns really just map what cybersecurity is already asking you to do. Do you do proper change control? Do you back things up? Do you look for vulnerabilities? So again, the great news is you're not starting from square one. A lot of this is already understood, but if you're not doing it well, the foundations are not doing well, take a moment and go back and shore up your cybersecurity, shore up your data governance before you get too far down the path.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many things like that that needs to be considered as you dabble into the AI. So make that sandbox off to the side and set those controls in
Sandbox.
place. I don't know, do something. If you need to, reach out to Terry and he can walk you through his checklist. I mean, it's an important thing, and I think it leads to the last segment that I kind of want to touch on is really the leading piece of this, because AI isn't just about models and math and the future of society and stuff. It's all of those things, but it's really about unlocking our people, our culture, our really being critical about decision making. Like these decisions that we make are having large ramifications throughout our company at the click of a mouse on that front. So what in your opinion should responsible leadership look like in the age of AI in 2025 and beyond?
Well, I would say that what companies can do to greatly reduce the risk in these AI projects we're all driving towards is leverage a good framework. So I'm a big fan of frameworks. NIST has an AI risk management framework, NIST being the National Institutes of Standard Technology, the government body that talks about cybersecurity, privacy. They got a lot of nice things. But they also have a framework for AI, and that'll kind of walk you through some of these concepts. But I'll tell you, excuse me, the first point in one of the main points in the framework, Brian, talks about people and education. It says specifically, are your users educated? Are your executives educated? Is the legal team looped in? Those sorts of things, whether it's the NIST AI risk management framework or others, everybody talks about start with the people. So I think that's another thing that gets forgotten, and I think that's where leadership needs to start, is with people and culture, supporting the governance programs. That's all a leadership sort of concept, and if those are not in place, you're setting yourself up on a bad path.
Yeah, I agree completely. That's what I've been telling teams is ask the AI for industry standards, industry best practice. It will go and find them for you as well as a
There you
deep
go.
research task. I guess there's two other aspects to touch on in this leadership space that I know I'm finding as I'm helping companies roll out AI roadmaps. And part of that roadmap is looping in somebody like you to make sure we have the right governance in place. But how are you leading conversations with executives that might not be so technical and are concerned about AI, and shifting them from like hesitation to confidence and a couple of those aspects?
Well, I don't know that hesitation is necessarily a bad thing. So what we learned in an earlier project that I participated in is the idea of you need to align your AI objectives with kind of your cultural risk. Do you want to be bleeding edge? Do you want to be, just behind that? Do you want to be slow? Are you a healthcare organization? Are you a finance organization? There's a lot of considerations. So maybe take a break and think about where do you want to be and what's your risk tolerance? Because again, AI is risky because we don't know what it's going to look like 12 months from now. All these expectations and the contracts and the regulations, everything coming down the road. So what I learned is start again with a foundational. We talked about security. We talked about the governance and data management. Risk management from an AI perspective is a conversation you have to have. Does the organization truly want to be bleeding edge? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you want to be bleeding edge in a very small subset of your organization. Maybe you want to be cutting edge for your developer writing code, but the chatbot that talks to your consumer, to your client, maybe that's a few steps behind the cutting edge. So,
Yeah.
so I think taking a moment and aligning it with the risk profile of the organization is a key concept, because with those conversations in place, then you can more easily foster leadership support in what you're doing. Because again, everyone's got to be aligned. We all got to be on the same page and marching to the same drummer. Those sorts of conversations around AI risk helps set that tone.
It's interesting when you unpack that because like I know me as the CTO leading these development teams, the question is they all want to be on the bleeding edge. But the code is usually the critical component for a lot of these companies. And it's like, I don't know if we want the code to be on that leading edge. I almost go back and say, let's play with marketing and sales because that's
Yeah.
all about experimentation in my mind. Which department do you think should be maybe a little bit more bleeding edge, cutting edge versus some other parts? Like definitely finance should be 10 steps behind, in my opinion. Like don't get too crazy on some of the AI stuff there. I don't know. Are you seeing one department versus another, or what would you recommend for leaders?
Yeah, I don't know that I see one department more than others. I see a lot of people dabbling. I see back office functions. They're starting to play with that generative AI. But what I would suggest to companies is think about your external influences. So regulations are definitely going to drive how you manage your AI risk. Again, your finance, as you mentioned, healthcare, military, government, whatever it may be. But even in that broad scope, if you're a healthcare organization, some of it's going to be risk management associated with AI. But there's low risk things that you do. Maybe validating the insurance claim reject that comes back. maybe that's a safe place to play. Maybe you throw human in the loop on top of it to help absorb that risk as well. So there's different areas. Organizations don't do one thing, but you should definitely be able to tier the most sensitive ones versus the least sensitive, the ones that can accept hiccups in the AI. Again, marketing would be a great one. Something purely internal would be a great one. Maybe you've got some kind of chat engine tied to your intranet that helps your employees find things. That's all low risk, and work your way up to the high risk stuff. You don't want to put high risk solutions that directly interface with customers. I think there was that famous story about a airline website that had the tickets, and someone bought a ticket really, really cheap, and it was because the AI bot didn't work correctly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
We've seen numerous examples of things like that. So,
yeah.
some awesome points. I mean, I think it's even more imperative that you've got some strong technology leaders in place, like you, me, and other, seasoned executives who have been playing with neural networks and some of the stuff that we have been for 15, 20 years. And this AI buzzword is finally out in the open because the layman can use it with ChatGPT now. But we've got to really bake in those proper governances. I really
I
appreciate
would
you
tell you one more than
being
that. You
here.
need the technical expertise that Brian, you and other people bring to the table. But don't sell yourself short, Brian. You've got the expertise as a seasoned executive. You're a business guy that knows technology. Pure technologist is great, but all we've been talking about for the past 20 minutes is business and risk, and how do we solve business problems, and how do we not get ahead of our skis, all those sorts of conversation. You need technology, but you also need the business expertise. And Brian, you and other people can kind of mirror those together. So if you are looking for a partner to help you through this, companies, I would tell you make sure it's a business person who knows AI technology, not one or the other. It's got to be a combination of the two.
I think you're spot on. I mean, I think that's really the kind of leadership that matters. It's got to be rooted in clarity, responsibility, and looking at the people and the real impact that it can have. So,
Agreed.
Terry, thank you so much for being here today. I think your insights around everything we discussed, trust, risk, strategy, are more relevant than ever. For those of you listening, if you found this conversation useful, please go ahead and follow the show, leave us a review, or share it with a friend who's curious about navigating AI the right way. You can learn more about Terry at Tech CXO or on his LinkedIn, and I'll drop that link in the show notes. Again, I'm Bryan Dennstedt, and I will see you next week. Remember, the future is not waiting, so learn, leverage, and lead. Thank you again, Terry.
This episode of AI with Bry was hosted and produced by me, Bryan Dennstedt. Produced with help from Nancy Velasquez and Kelly Lopez. Video by Leo Moralina. Sound AI generated. Find us on all platforms at AI with Bry and visit ai.bry.net for more. Learn, leverage, lead.